Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try to cut through all the noise, all the sensational headlines, and really get to the heart of what human trafficking actually is. I mean, you've probably seen the names and stories popping up in the news. You have cases like Andrew Tate over in Romania, which involve these really serious charges of human trafficking and organizing a criminal gang for sexual exploitation. And then, of course, you have cases like Jeffrey Epstein's. The charges there were sex trafficking of minors, but the whole thing just got tangled up in this huge, complex web of investigations. And, well, his death just made any kind of real conclusion even murkier. And it's not just about individuals either. You have these massive online entities like Backpage.com. This was a huge platform that the government had to shut down because it was knowingly facilitating prostitution on an industrial scale. So you look at all these wildly different stories. What's the actual thread connecting them? Well, the answer is in a very specific legal definition, one that separates human trafficking from other crimes. To really get it, we need to look at the legal blueprint. Right, so to make any sense of this, we've got to move past the personalities, past the headlines, and really focus on the legal architecture of the crime itself. Okay, so internationally and under U.S. law, specifically the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, the crime is defined by a very clear three-part test. And this is the absolute key right here. For any crime to be legally called human trafficking, prosecutors have to prove all three of these elements. What was done, that's the act. How it was done, the means, and why it was done, the purpose. It's that specific combination that defines the whole offense. This is so important because it gets to the very core of modern trafficking law. See, it's not about a victim's choices. It's all about the trafficker's control. If a prosecutor can prove there was coercion, then any argument about consent just goes right out the window. It becomes legally irrelevant. And this shows a really critical evolution in the law. We moved from something like the Old Man Act, which was basically about policing morality, to the modern law, the TVPA, which is a laser focused on prosecuting the act of exploitation. It's a huge shift. Okay, so we've got this legal framework. Now let's see how it applies in the world we live in today, where traffickers have turned the digital systems that we use every single day into their own personal hunting ground. Think about it. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, even dating apps, they've become tools for every single stage of the trafficking process. From the very beginning, recruitment with fake job ads, all the way to maintaining control through threats and constantly monitoring accounts. And the money? It changes hands right there on the platform. Court documents show that payment apps like MetaPay are used to make these crimes happen. And this quote, it just reveals how casual and horrifying these transactions can be. They're often in small amounts too, which makes them really hard for automated systems to catch. And let's be clear, this is not a small-scale problem. Before the people running it were finally convicted, Backpage.com was a massive enterprise. We're talking over $500 million generated from ads that they knew were promoting prostitution. So, beyond the digital world, trafficking operations rely on another absolutely critical system, our financial institutions. Let's go back to the Jeffrey Epstein case. JP Morgan Chase agreed to a truly staggering $290 million settlement with his victims. Now, why would they do that? Because the victims alleged that the bank knew what was going on, and that it benefited from and helped facilitate his entire sex trafficking operation. And what's really interesting here is you start to see a pattern of institutional involvement. It wasn't just one bank. Deutsche Bank also settled for $75 million, and Bank of America reached a settlement for an undisclosed amount, all of it tied to their financial dealings with Epstein. So when you start to connect these threads, the legal framework, the digital platforms, the financial institutions, this bigger picture emerges. You realize human trafficking isn't just about individual predators. It's a business model that preys on entire systems. You know, a common misconception is that trafficking is always about sex, but labor trafficking is just as pervasive. The case against Andrew Tate, for example, is about sex trafficking allegations. But contrast that with the Signal International case, where you had hundreds of workers from India trapped in forced labor after being recruited to rebuild after Hurricane Katrina. Two totally different scenarios, both trafficking. This crime thrives by finding the vulnerabilities, the cracks in our systems, and just abusing them. It doesn't matter if it's our immigration laws with H-2B visas, our international adoption processes, or, as we've seen, our digital platforms. It's a crime that exploits the loopholes in the very systems we all rely on. So, understanding that act, means, and purpose formula really helps us see the crime clearly. But it also forces us to ask a much bigger, much tougher question about the world we've built and what role our own systems play in allowing this exploitation to keep happening.